10 bad habits that are absolutely destroying your game. That was the basis of today's title for the video, or should I really just call it 10 bad reloading habits that you are making in Siege? Because we all know that one person who reloads after every single bullet. If that is you, I'm sure you're not alone, but it is a bad habit, and today I'm going to be giving you 10 bad habits that are going to be affecting your gameplay in Siege. If this video does help you out, or if you are one of many people who decide to reload after one bullet has been used, be sure to drop a like on the video. And without further ado, let's get on into the video and show you these 10 bad habits. Habit number 1 is going to be skipping the kill cam. A lot of players in Siege will automatically skip the kill cam, whether they are simply going to be raging or they simply decide that, nope, I just want to get on to the rest of the game. I don't really care about watching what I did wrong. I'm going to go through it. And as well, it is just a general habit. A lot of people don't realize the mistake that they're making when they do it, but they simply skip along. But the kill cam is a very, very overlooked tool that you need to be using to your advantage. The kill cam pinpoints where you died, how you died, and what the player was who killed you and where from, essentially giving you a lot of info that you can use. Now, it's not always going to be relevant, but you can normally see in that short 10-second snippet, or however long it is only a few seconds, on what you actually did wrong. Therefore, it is going to allow you to see where you went wrong, what you should learn from next time, and not make that mistake again. However, within that short snippet, it's not always going to show you what you did wrong. It might be something earlier on in the round. Therefore, what I want you to do every time you come onto the kill cam is watch it, think back into the round on what you did wrong, whether it was in the prep phase, whether it was in just after the prep phase, whatever it was, think back to it and try and improve from this. Learn from your mistakes in order to improve as a player. The next bad habit that you are making in Siege is driving your drone to the objective. Now, first of all, this might not seem like a bad habit to you. Driving your drone to the objective, trying to find the objective, surely that is a good thing. Well, when we take a look at it and break it down a little bit further, you will see why. There are two sides to this, whether you're going to be in a 5-stack or solo queuing. If you are in a 5-stack, you should nominate one person to take their drone to the objective in order to find it and locate it. The other 4 of the players should be setting up their drones in a point that is going to help them, their role, their playstyle, their operator, in order to execute what they need done. Most of the time, it might be driving their drone near their spawn so that they can pick it up, have their extra drone in the round, or sometimes it might be putting it near their entry point. For support players, it could be putting it more towards the middle of the map for that entry fragger when they do get further in. But the fact is, how many Siege players does it take to find an objective? Not 5, it takes 1. If you solo queuing, the rules still will apply. Don't get into the habit of it. Take your drone to your spawn, do whatever you need to for yourself. Often, your random teammates, 9 times out of 10, will always drive their drone for that objective to get those sweet, sweet points those random players do indeed crave. And I mean, let's be honest, 50 to 100 points in the first seconds of the round? Who would not be taking that? And the third bad habit, reloading way too often. If you find yourself reloading way too often, what it is going to cause is it's going to cause you to get caught off guard many a time, and this will lead to you dying. The only time you should reload is when you absolutely have to, or you are in fact behind cover. Now, obviously, reloading on one bullet is a pointless thing to do. Many players do it though. I've been a victim of it myself. It is very needing to do. However, break the habit, and being behind cover means that your teammate or somebody or something is watching your back. Therefore, you can go for that reload in order to execute it yourself. You will have a general awareness of whether you are behind cover or not yourself. To summarize, don't reload too often. It's going to lead to you getting caught off guard and dying because of it. The next bad habit that you are making is your ego. This is where you get too high up in your own thoughts, thinking you are one of the best players in the world, when quite frankly that is just not the case. Sorry to burst your bubble with that one. Now, by all means, confidence is absolutely great. I would recommend you having a lot of confidence in your game because it will elevate your gameplay a lot. However, there is a limit to it. When it gets to the point where you're trash talking or talking down to other players on your team or other enemies, or simply letting your ego get ahead of you and you are starting to downgrade them, and realistically you should be focusing on other areas of your game. That is when it gets a little bit too much. If you are being toxic towards your teammates or other players because of it, thinking you are above them, that is simply where it goes wrong. Use your skills, use your expertise to educate other people. The 5th bad habit that you're making is pinging the enemy. A lot of the times, players will ping the enemy consistently on cameras, on drones, when it is not needed. Pinging the enemy themselves, that red ping, that red marker, is honestly fading away from the meta itself, if you would call it that, from Siege compared to when it was years ago. Translate it for you, pinging is essentially telling the enemy that there is a camera and you are being watched by the defenders and they know where you are. This gives them a lot of intel. A, that there's a camera watching them. B, that the defenders know their position. And C, that the defenders are making a massive mistake pinging their enemy. Instead, what you need to be doing is using the yellow ping if necessary. Make the call out as well. Make that call out to your team. Even if you don't want to make that call out, you can still just use and keep the information to yourself. Now, by all means, I would highly recommend you to communicate with your team, and we'll get onto that in a little bit, as it will give them the intel that they need to act on. It draws so much attention to the camera or drone. When you really think about it, that intel that you would have had simply by not pinging could last you until the entire round. The next bad habit that you are making is fixating the blame on your team. Very similar to the ego, but this is where you are simply cutting out all excuses from yourself and putting that blame on your team. Not only is this going to create a toxic environment for you and your team, but as well, it's also going to cause you a lack of self-improvement. You're no longer going to be improving because you're cutting those excuses out. So not only are you holding your team back, creating a negative environment for them, but also yourself. The next bad habit that you are making is being too passive. A lot of players in Siege do make this mistake, especially newer ones. This is where you are going to be way too passive. Now obviously being passive is good sometimes and being aggressive is great sometimes. However, you need to find that balance. You can't go to one end of the extreme. And being too passive looks like droning out every single corner of a room, droning out every room you go into. And again, droning is great by all means, but it gets to the point where you are too extreme with it. And often when you are too passive, you'll end up tripping over your own 2 feet and getting yourself killed, or you'll simply waste so much time. By the time that you actually get to the objective itself, the round is already over. If you do find yourself being a little more too passive, you need to find a balance. Now, one way that you can find the balance is simply being way too aggressive, or more aggressive than you usually would. What I want you to do is play around where you simply go for it. You don't drone as much, you don't care about things as much, you just go for it. And it doesn't really matter if you die in the end because you're simply just testing. See how good it feels in order to do this and experience it. Then what you need to do is combine it with your passiveness. You've already got that trait of being passive. Now once you learn the trait of being aggressive, combine the two together and work out the balance. The next bad habit that you are making in Siege is not communicating. Now the reality is, if you don't want to communicate, there are a few reasons behind it. The main one being that you really care what other people think about you when you are going to be communicating. You might say a call out wrong, you might mess it up, you might give the wrong information. They might end up dying because you've given out the wrong information. There could be someone toxic on the other end of the team who just slates anyone that tries to be helpful. There are a lot of things that can happen. However, the fact is, what are you going to do otherwise? Are you just going to sit there, say nothing, let the round carry on as it is, and do absolutely nothing about it? No, you're going to turn your mic on, you're going to give that call out to them, you're going to start learning the call outs, you're going to start learning how to give a good and clear call out and communicate with your team. Even when you are solo queuing, even when you are in a 5-stack, you need to do it. Because, ladies and gentlemen, what is the alternative? The 9th bad habit that you are making in Siege is burning out. You are playing way too much of Siege, and it is great to play Siege. It is great to play a lot of it in order to practice, to warm up, to get better at the game and start working on your own craft. But there is a line, there is a limit. Don't start playing it too much to the point where your improvement starts to fade away. If you are playing endlessly, it's going to get to the point where that improvement isn't going to be as effective and as sharp as you would be if you just started playing. Therefore, take a break. How many of you have actually taken a break? That's the real question. Take a break. It is scientifically proven that taking a break will help to reset, refresh your mind, and allow you to be more effective in game. The final bad habit that you are making that is destroying your game is going to be sitting on your phone. We've all done it, we've all been there, we've all been on our phone in the drone phase, in the prep phase, sitting on our phone doing absolutely nothing, or even when we die. Now the fact is, this is wrong. Unless you are watching a MatchPoint video and you hit that subscribe button, notification bell as well, and if you're currently doing that, by all means, let your teammates die, focus on that. However, if you're not, you need to stop doing that habit. You need to cut it right out. The drone phase, the prep phase, and some of the phases where you die are some of the most important in the game because they allow you to learn, help the team out, so be sure to put the work in. And that right there were the 10 habits you need to cut out and start changing now. If the video did help you out, be sure to drop a like on it and subscribe for more tips and tricks just like this one. And as always, have an incredible rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.